The final battle for galactic freedom began not with massive fleets clashing in space, but with a single ship appearing in the heart of Council territory. The ancient capital world of HFY, seat of power for 50,000 years, had never been threatened by enemy forces. Captain Jisoo Park stood on the bridge of his flagship as it emerged from quantum jump directly above the planet's defensive grid. The Taguchi had been modified beyond recognition, carrying every piece of advanced human technology developed during the war. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the planetary shields are activating. Defensive platforms are powering weapons." "Good," replied Jisoo calmly. "That means they're taking us seriously." Around the capital world, the most powerful defenses in galactic history came online. Energy barriers that could withstand the impact of asteroids, weapon platforms capable of destroying entire fleets, and automated defense systems perfected over millennia of absolute rule. But Jisoo's ship wasn't alone. As the Council's defenses focused on the obvious threat, dozens of stealth vessels commanded by his brother Wu Jin materialized throughout the system. The Ghost Fleet had evolved during months of guerrilla warfare, becoming nearly impossible to detect until they chose to reveal themselves. On the planet's surface, Primarch Veltharion watched from his crystal palace as human ships appeared on every scanner. For the first time in his incredibly long life, enemy forces threatened his homeworld. "Deploy the ancient fleet," he commanded. "Activate weapons that have not been used since the founding of the Council." Deep beneath the planet's crust, massive ships that had been sleeping for 50,000 years began to awaken. These were the Primarch's personal vessels, built during the wars that had established Council dominance. They were older than human civilization, powered by technologies that younger species had forgotten. The ancient fleet rose from their underground berths like sleeping dragons awakening to defend their treasure. Each ship was the size of a space station, armed with weapons capable of cracking planets. "Impressive," admitted Admiral Hyunwoo Kim from his command ship at the edge of the system. "But we expected this." The human strategy for the final battle was based on everything they had learned about their enemy. The Council's greatest weakness wasn't their technology or their numbers, it was their inability to adapt to truly unexpected situations. Dr. Jae-won Yoon's final weapon wasn't a bomb or a missile. It was a virus, not a biological virus, but a quantum information virus designed to spread through the energy networks that connected all Council technology. "Quantum virus deployed," reported Dr. Han. "Shin from the research vessel Hidden Truth. Propagation. Rate is exceeding our best estimates. The IC virus spread like wildfire through Council networks. Every time an alien ship tried to coordinate with another, every time a defensive platform communicated with the planetary grid, the virus spread further. Within hours, Council technology throughout their capital system began experiencing cascading failures. Weapon systems shut down at random moments. Communication networks carried false information. Navigation systems provided incorrect coordinates, but the virus was only the beginning. As Council forces struggled with their malfunctioning technology, human forces launched their real attack. General Suman Kang led the ground assault with an army that had been training for this moment for over a year. Using teleportation technology reverse-engineered from captured Council ships, human soldiers appeared directly inside the Primarch's palace. "Throne room secured," reported Sergeant Minji Jian as her squad captured the central control chamber, beginning data extraction from the main archives. The information they found was staggering. Records of every species the Council had conquered, every world they controlled, every act of oppression committed over 50 millennia. But more importantly, they found the quantum keys that controlled Council military forces throughout the galaxy. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Seo-yeon Park to Admiral Kim, "we have access to their central command network. We can shut down their entire military from here." "Not yet," replied Admiral Kim. "First, we need to deal with their leadership." In the depths of his palace, Primarch Veltharion fought back with the desperation of a tyrant facing judgment. Ancient weapons that had conquered 1,000 worlds fired at the human soldiers. But General Kang's forces had prepared for this too. Human armor adapted to energy weapons in real time. Human tactics confused automated defense systems designed to fight conventional armies. And human determination proved stronger than 50,000 years of absolute power. Primarch Veltharion, called General Kang as her forces surrounded the ancient ruler, by the authority of the free species of this galaxy, I place you under arrest for crimes against sentient life. The massive alien leader looked down at the small human general with something that might have been respect. You have done something I thought impossible, he said quietly. You have ended an age. But even as the Council's leadership fell, their military forces throughout the galaxy continued to fight. On 1,000 worlds, loyal Council fleets battled human-supported rebellions. Captain Woojin Park led his stealth ships in a desperate race across the galaxy, using the captured quantum keys to shut down Council weapon systems before they could massacre civilian populations. HFY secured, he reported, moving to the Zentari homeworld. Nexari system is free, reported Colonel Yunji Choi. Local forces have full control. Koroth rebellion successful, added Ambassador Velkara over the communication network. Council forces have surrendered. One by one, reports came in from across the galaxy. 50,000 years of tyranny were ending in a matter of days. But the true victory wasn't military. In the Council's central archives, Dr. Yunji Song made a discovery that would reshape galactic civilization. Admiral, she reported with excitement, the Council has been suppressing technological development for millennia. They have archives containing scientific advances that could benefit every species in the galaxy. Medical techniques, agricultural improvements, even technologies for space travel that would make interstellar communication instantaneous. The Council hadn't just been political tyrants. They had been holding back the advancement of galactic civilization to maintain their power. President Soyeon Lim addressed the galaxy from Earth. Her words carried to every world by the same quantum networks that had once enforced Council rule. Citizens of the galaxy, she began. Today marks the end of the longest tyranny in galactic history, but it also marks the beginning of something new. Humanity calls for the establishment of a galactic federation, where every species has a voice and no one group can claim absolute authority over others. The response was overwhelming. Species that had been silent for millennia spoke up for the first time. Worlds that had been forced to provide resources to the Council began developing their own economies. Scientific knowledge that had been hoarded for 50,000 years began spreading freely. But perhaps the most important moment came when former Primarch Veltharion, now imprisoned but treated with the dignity that the Council had never shown their enemies, spoke to his human captors. I understand now why you were able to defeat us, he said to Admiral Kim during one of their conversations. We had forgotten what it means to fight for something greater than yourself. We ruled through fear and intimidation. You fought for freedom and hope. The old Primarch looked out through the window of his comfortable prison at the stars beyond. 50,000 years ago, we thought we were bringing peace to the galaxy. But peace without freedom is just another form of death. The establishment of the Galactic Federation took place on a neutral world, with representatives from over 1,000 species in attendance. The founding charter was simple. No species could claim authority over another. All scientific knowledge would be shared freely, and conflicts would be resolved through negotiation rather than force. Admiral Kim was elected as the Federation's first military coordinator, not because humanity demanded it, but because the other species recognized that humans had proven they could fight for principles rather than power. The age of tyranny is over, he declared to the assembled delegates. The age of cooperation begins today. Captain Jisoo Park, now commanding the Federation's exploration fleet, led missions to worlds that had been isolated under Council rule. They found species that had been developing in secret, technologies that had been forbidden, and art and culture that had been suppressed for millennia. But the humans never forgot the lesson of the Galactic Council. Power without restraint corrupts, no matter how good the intentions. The Federation was built with safeguards to prevent any single species from becoming too dominant. Dr. Jae-won Yoon established research centers where scientists from different species worked together, sharing knowledge freely. Dr. Yoonji Song led teams that helped former Council worlds establish their own governments. General Sumin Kang created military academies where the hard-learned lessons of warfare were taught to ensure that peace could be defended without becoming tyranny. The galaxy was free. Not because humans had conquered it, but because they had shown that freedom was worth fighting for no matter the odds, and in the end, that made all the difference. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any gathering in 50,000 years. Primarch Veltharion stood before the assembled representatives, his ancient features twisted with an emotion none of them had ever seen in their leader rage. 200 ships, he said, his voice echoing through the crystal chamber. 200 ships of the Galactic Defense Force destroyed by primitives who barely know how to navigate between stars. The council members shifted uneasily. The report from Fleet Commander Zeth Moran had been almost impossible to believe. The humans had used weapons that bypassed their shields, tactics that ignored established rules of warfare, and strategies that seemed designed specifically to counter Council technology. "How is this possible?" asked Councillor Zyftai, the aquatic representative whose species had designed most of the Defense Force's shield systems. "Our defenses have been perfect for millennia." "Clearly they were not as perfect as we believed," replied Veltharion coldly. "The humans studied us. They prepared. They turned our own confidence against us." A new voice joined the discussion, filtered through quantum communication arrays from across the galaxy. "Primarch, we have a more serious problem than one lost battle." The speaker was General Thexron, military coordinator for the Outer Rim sectors. His image appeared as a hologram in the center of the chamber. "Report," ordered Veltharion. 17 worlds have declared independence from Council authority in the past 72 hours. The Nexari, Koroth, and Velen systems have expelled Council representatives and established their own governments. More are following every hour. The chamber erupted in shocked discussions. Independent worlds hadn't existed since the early days of Council rule. "It gets worse," continued General Thexron. "We're detecting coordinated military activity in multiple sectors. Species that haven't built warships in thousands of years are suddenly constructing fleets." Dr. Yunji Song had predicted this. From her laboratory on Earth, she had analyzed the psychological profiles of oppressed species throughout the galaxy. The Council's defeat had done more than win a single battle. It had broken the spell of invincibility that kept their empire together. "Sir," reported Captain Jizu Park to Admiral Kim from his position near Jupiter, "we're receiving communication requests from multiple alien species. They want to establish diplomatic contact." Admiral Kim studied the list of species requesting meetings. Many were from the Outer Rim, far from the Council's direct control. Others were younger races that had been forced into submission relatively recently. "Open a channel to the Koroth delegation," he ordered. The alien that appeared on screen was humanoid but with skin that shifted colors like an oil slick. When it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that suggested natural emotional communication. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Velkara of the Koroth Collective. We have witnessed your victory against the Council's forces. We wish to discuss mutual cooperation." "What kind of cooperation?" asked Admiral Kim carefully. "The kind that ends 50,000 years of tyranny," replied the ambassador. "The Council has kept our species subjugated through fear. You have shown that fear was misplaced. We offer alliance." Similar conversations were taking place across Earth's communication networks. Species after species reached out, offering everything from military cooperation to technological exchange. The galaxy was awakening from its long sleep. General Suman Kang coordinated the human response from her command center. "We need to be careful," she warned Admiral Kim. "Some of these species might be Council agents trying to infiltrate our defenses." "Agreed," replied Admiral Kim. "But we also can't ignore legitimate allies. Run full security checks on everyone who wants to meet." Meanwhile, the Council was mobilizing for total war. Primarch Veltharion had issued orders that hadn't been used in millennia. Every member species was required to contribute ships, weapons, and personnel to the war effort. 10,000 vessels, he declared to the assembled council. "We will crush these humans and their rebellion once and for all. Let this be a lesson to any species that considers defying our authority." But mobilizing a force that had grown complacent over 50,000 years of peace proved more difficult than expected. Many species had forgotten how to build warships. Others had lost the industrial capacity for large-scale military production. More troubling were the reports of sabotage and resistance from within Council space. Workers in shipyards were delaying construction. Supply convoys were mysteriously disappearing. Communication networks were experiencing technical difficulties that prevented efficient coordination. "Sir," reported Intelligence Coordinator Nexval to the Primarch, We have evidence that the humans are actively supporting resistance movements throughout Council territory. How? Demanded Veltharion. Stealth ships similar to the ones they used in their initial victory. They're smuggling weapons and advisors to rebel groups. Our security forces are having difficulty detecting them. This was exactly what Commander Woojin Park's expanded Ghost Fleet had been designed to do. Using the stealth technology that had proven so effective against Council sensors, human ships were moving freely through alien space, making contact with resistance groups and providing military support. On the Nexari homeworld, human military advisor Colonel Yoonji Choi worked with local rebels to establish guerrilla warfare tactics. Your people have been peaceful for too long, she explained to the Nexari resistance leader. But you still remember how to fight when your freedom is at stake. The Nexari were insectoid creatures with natural camouflage abilities. Under human guidance, they became invisible saboteurs, striking at Council facilities and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. Human advisors taught alien rebels how to fight asymmetric warfare, how to disrupt supply lines, and how to coordinate resistance activities across multiple star systems. Dr. Jaewon Yoon's weapons research had expanded beyond creating tools to fight the Council. Now his laboratories were producing equipment specifically designed for different alien physiologies and tactical requirements. Plasma disruptors for the Koroth, he reported, to Admiral Kim, quantum mines for the Velen system, and kinetic artillery for the Nexari rebellion. Each package is customized for the specific needs of our allies. But the Council was adapting too. New ship designs were being rushed into production, incorporating lessons learned from their defeat at Earth. Energy shields were being supplemented with physical armor. Weapon systems were being redesigned to counter human kinetic attacks. They're learning, warned Colonel Do-hyun Choi after analyzing intercepted Council communications. The next battle won't be as easy as the first. Admiral Kim nodded grimly. Then we need to make sure we don't fight the same battle twice. What's the status of Operation Taekwondo? Operation Taekwondo was humanity's plan for the next phase of the war. Instead of waiting for the Council to attack Earth again, human forces would strike at multiple targets simultaneously, forcing the aliens to divide their attention and resources. All teams are in position, reported General Kang. We can hit 12 major Council facilities within a 6-hour window. Their response time between systems is at least 8 hours, so they won't be able to reinforce effectively. The strategy was classic human warfare: divide your enemy's attention, strike where they're weakest, and never let them dictate the terms of engagement. Captain Jisoo Park would lead the assault on the Council's primary shipyard at SciFiPrime. Commander Woojin Park would target their main communication hub. Dozens of other human commanders would simultaneously attack supply depots, research facilities, and military installations throughout Council space. Sir, reported Communications Officer Minji Lee, we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council. Primarch Veltharion wants to speak with you directly. Admiral Kim considered the request. Talking to the enemy during wartime was always dangerous, but it might provide valuable intelligence. Put him through. The ancient alien leader appeared on the main screen, his reptilian features showing signs of stress that hadn't been there during their first meeting. Admiral Kim, said the Primarch, I offer you one final chance to surrender. End this rebellion, return to your home system, and accept Council authority. In return, we will show mercy to your species. Counteroffer, replied Admiral Kim calmly. Dissolve the Council, grant independence to all member species, and establish a democratic galactic government. In return, we won't destroy your remaining military forces. Veltharion's eyes flared with ancient rage. You dare make demands of me? I have ruled this galaxy since before your species discovered fire. And that's exactly the problem, said Admiral Kim. 50,000 years is too long for any one group to hold absolute power. It's time for a change. The transmission ended with Veltharion's roar of fury echoing through space. Well, said Colonel Choi, I guess diplomacy is off the table. It was never on the table, replied Admiral Kim. Tyrants don't negotiate, they only understand force. It's time to show them what human force really looks like. Across the galaxy, human ships began moving toward their targets. The second phase of humanity's war for galactic freedom was about to begin. Fleet Commander Zeth Moran of the Saurian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Stellar Dominion, and felt the familiar satisfaction of approaching victory. His fleet of 500 ships was the largest military force assembled in over 1,000 years. The humans would surrender quickly once they saw the overwhelming power arrayed against them. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, a crystalline being whose light patterns indicated excitement, "we are approaching the human home system. Their primitive vessels are forming defensive positions near the fourth planet." Zeth Moran studied the tactical display with amusement. The humans had perhaps 50 ships, all smaller than his smallest cruiser. Their technology was crude, their formations clumsy. This would be over quickly. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "Let me speak to their commander." The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a human ship. A man in a blue uniform looked back at him with steady eyes. "I am Captain Jisoo Park of the Earth Defense Fleet," the human said. "You are trespassing in our sovereign space." Zeth Moran laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "I am Fleet Commander Zeth Moran of the Galactic Defense Force. You have refused the Council's generous offer of peaceful submission. Now you will face the consequences." "We're ready," replied Captain Park simply. The transmission ended. Zeth Moran shook his massive head. Human arrogance was remarkable considering their obvious disadvantage. "Begin standard bombardment pattern," he ordered. "Disable their ships, but try to keep casualties minimal. They will be more cooperative if we don't kill too many of them." The alien fleet advanced in perfect formation, their shields glowing with deadly energy, plasma cannons charged to full power. This was how the Galactic Defense Force had maintained peace for millennia, through overwhelming, undeniable force. The first volley should have ended the battle. Concentrated plasma fire from 50 ships struck the human formation. But instead of the expected explosions and surrender signals, something impossible happened. The human ships absorbed the hits and kept fighting. "Report," demanded Zeth Moran. "Sir, our plasma bolts are having minimal effect. Their armor appears to be adaptive, changing its properties to counter our weapons." Before Zeth Moran could respond, the humans returned fire. But their weapons were unlike anything in the Galactic Defense Force's experience. Instead of energy bolts, solid projectiles streaked across space at incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds punched through energy shields like they weren't there. 3 alien ships exploded in the first exchange. "Impossible," roared Zeth Moran. "Our shields have never failed." "Sir, the projectiles are solid matter, not energy. Our shields are designed to deflect plasma and laser weapons." More human weapons fired. These were different, strange torpedoes that seemed to twist space around them. When they struck alien ships, the energy fields that powered everything from weapons to life support simply stopped working. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported a panicked voice. "Life support failing on Decks 3 through 9. Zeth Moran watched in disbelief as more of his ships fell to the primitive human weapons. This was not how battles were supposed to work. The superior force was supposed to win through technological advantage. But the humans weren't fighting like a technologically inferior species. They moved in chaotic patterns that made targeting difficult. Their weapons seemed designed specifically to counter Galactic Defense Force technology. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving boarding pods from the human vessels." Boarding pods? Zeth Moran had never heard of such a thing. Who would board an enemy ship during battle? His question was answered when human soldiers burst onto his bridge through the ventilation system. They wore primitive-looking armor and carried weapons that fired solid projectiles instead of energy bolts. The aliens' automated defense systems, designed to counter energy weapons and override commands from unauthorized personnel, were useless against enemies who used mechanical locks and explosive charges. Sergeant Minji Jian led her squad with military precision, targeting critical systems while her soldiers secured key positions. The aliens were so dependent on their automated systems that they barely knew how to fight when those systems were disabled. "Control room secured," she reported into her radio. "Beginning data extraction." Throughout the alien fleet, similar scenes played out. Human boarding parties had studied alien ship designs for months. They knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage with minimum resistance. But the most devastating surprise was yet to come. As the battle raged, space around the alien fleet began to shimmer. Ships appeared from nowhere, their stealth systems finally revealing themselves. Commander Wu Jin Park's ghost fleet had been waiting in the asteroid belt, invisible to the aliens' energy-based sensors. Now they struck from behind, their weapons optimized for close-range surprise attacks. Ghost fleet engaging, reported Wu Jin over the battle network. Target their command ships first. The aliens found themselves caught between the hammer and anvil of human strategy. The conventional fleet held their attention, while the stealth ships struck at their most vulnerable points. Admiral Hyun-Woo Kim, coordinating the battle from Earth's command center, watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The first phase was working better than their best-case scenarios had predicted. "Sir," reported Colonel Do-hyun Choi, "enemy fleet is beginning to break formation. Their coordination is failing." This was exactly what human strategists had hoped for. The alien fleet's greatest strength was its unity and coordination. Once that broke down, their superior numbers became a liability as ships got in each other's way. Fleet Commander Zeth Moran, now fighting to regain control of his own ship from human borders, finally understood what was happening. These weren't primitive savages with crude weapons. They were experienced warriors who had studied their enemy and prepared accordingly. "All ships tactical withdrawal," he ordered, hoping to regroup and develop new strategies. "Fall back to safe distance!" But the humans weren't finished. Dr. Jae-won-yoon's ultimate surprise was about to be deployed. Quantum disruption mines activated, reported Captain Jisoo from his flagship. Throughout the battle zone, devices no larger than basketballs began broadcasting signals that interfered with the quantum fields that powered alien technology. The effect was devastating. Energy shields flickered and died. Weapon systems shut down. Even basic life support began to fail as the quantum disruption spread through the alien fleet. "Retreat," ordered Zeth Moran, his voice filled with something the Galactic Defense Force had never experienced defeat. Of the 500 ships that had entered Earth's solar system with absolute confidence, only 300 managed to escape. The rest were either destroyed or captured by human forces. As the alien fleet fled, Captain Jisoo Park established communication with Admiral Kim. "Admiral, the enemy is in full retreat. We have captured 73 alien vessels and taken over 4,000 prisoners." "Casualties?" asked Admiral Kim. "Surprisingly light, sir. 15 ships damaged, 3 destroyed. Total human casualties under 300. The numbers were almost unbelievable. A technologically inferior force had just defeated the most powerful military in the galaxy." But Admiral Kim knew this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council had never faced defeat before. They would not accept it gracefully. "All units begin salvage operations," he ordered. "I want every piece of alien technology studied and analyzed. And prepare for Phase 2. They'll be back, and next time they won't underestimate us." Throughout the galaxy, news of the impossible defeat spread like wildfire. Species that had been under Council rule for thousands of years began to whisper about the humans who had done the unthinkable. On distant worlds, resistance movements that had been dormant for centuries began to stir. If the mighty Galactic Defense Force could be defeated by a single primitive species, perhaps the Council wasn't as invincible as they claimed. Fleet Commander Zeth Moran, limping back to Council space with his shattered fleet, composed a report that would shock the Primarch and the entire Council. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had shattered 50,000 years of absolute authority with weapons that shouldn't have worked, and tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. For the first time in galactic history, the Council faced an enemy that refused to be intimidated by superior technology and overwhelming numbers. The war for galactic freedom had begun. Deep beneath the Gobi Desert, in a facility that didn't exist on any official map, Dr. Jae-won-yoon watched as the final tests of humanity's most secret weapon were completed. The underground complex stretched for miles, hidden beneath layers of sand and rock. Here, Earth's brightest minds had spent years preparing for a war they hoped would never come. "Quantum disruption torpedo, test number 47, announced his assistant, Dr. Haeun Shin. "Target, simulated alien energy shield based on Council station readings." The test chamber lit up as a torpedo, the size of a small car, struck an energy barrier that shimmered like aurora. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the barrier flickered, twisted, and collapsed completely. "Perfect," said Dr. Yoon with satisfaction. "The quantum field disruption is working exactly as calculated. Any energy-based shield should be vulnerable to this." Commander Woojin Park, Captain Jisoo's younger brother, studied the readouts with interest. "How many of these can we produce?" "We have 500 ready now. with production lines capable of making 50 more per day once we go to full war production, replied Dr. Shin. Wu Jin nodded approvingly. He commanded Earth's Ghost Fleet, the secret armada that had been built over the past 5 years. His ships were hidden throughout the solar system, invisible to conventional sensors, and armed with weapons specifically designed to fight technologically superior enemies. What about the kinetic bombardment systems? He asked. Dr. Yoon led them to another section of the facility where massive railguns were being tested. Simple physics, he explained. The aliens rely on energy shields that can deflect plasma and laser weapons, but a solid metal slug traveling at a significant fraction of light speed doesn't care about energy barriers. It just punches straight through. The demonstration was impressive. A tungsten rod smaller than a pencil obliterated a target that would have survived a nuclear blast. The beauty is in the simplicity, continued Dr. Yoon. While they're using impossibly complex energy manipulation, we're using basic kinetic force. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. In another part of the facility, General Suman Kang was observing a very different kind of preparation. Elite soldiers from every nation on Earth trained in zero-gravity environments, learning to fight in the corridors of alien ships. Sergeant Minji Jian, a former Special Forces operative, led her squad through a mock-up of the Council Station's interior. They moved with the fluid precision that came from months of intensive training. Remember, she called out as they secured a simulated control room, alien technology is impressive, but it's also complex. The more complex a system, the more ways it can be broken. Find the critical points and disable them. Her soldiers carried weapons that looked primitive compared to alien plasma rifles, but they were designed for the specific task of fighting in enclosed spaces against enemies who relied heavily on automated systems. General Kang watched with pride as the soldiers completed their exercise. How many teams do we have ready? He asked Colonel Yoonji Choi, his training coordinator. 200 full squads, each trained for ship-to-ship combat, station assault, and sabotage operations. They know alien ship layouts better than most aliens do, thanks to the intelligence we gathered during our council visit. Meanwhile, in orbital shipyards hidden behind the moon, the final preparations of humanity's conventional fleet were taking place. Captain Jisoo Park inspected the upgrades to his flagship, the Taguchi. The ship looked the same from the outside, but its internal systems had been completely rebuilt. Adaptive armor plating, explained Chief Engineer Do-Hyun Kim. It can adjust its properties in real time to counter different types of energy weapons. The ship's AI learns from each hit and modifies the armor to be more resistant to that specific attack. And if that fails? Asked Jisoo. Emergency protocols, replied Engineer Kim. Every critical system has 3 backups, and every backup has a manual override. Even if their weapons disable 90% of our technology, we can still fight. The ship's new weapon systems were equally impressive. Instead of relying on single powerful weapons, the Taguchi now carried dozens of smaller systems, each designed to exploit different weaknesses in alien technology. Psychological warfare, added Tactical Officer Seoyeon Park. The aliens are used to fighting opponents who use technology similar to their own. Our weapons will seem random and chaotic to them. That confusion will give us an advantage. Back on Earth, President Seoyeon Lim addressed the world's population for the second time in a month. This time, she didn't hide the truth. Citizens of Earth, she began, her voice carried to every corner of the globe. We have received an ultimatum from the Galactic Council. They demand that we limit ourselves to our home solar system and accept restrictions on our technology and military capabilities. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. We have decided to refuse their demands. In 30 days, we may face military action from an alien empire that has ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. But humanity has never surrendered to tyranny, no matter how powerful. We will not start now. The reaction was mixed. Some called for negotiation. Others demanded immediate military action. But most simply accepted that their leaders had made the best decision possible under impossible circumstances. Dr. Yoonji Song, now serving as Earth's chief xenobiologist, worked with teams of scientists to understand everything they could about the alien species they had encountered. Her research was proving invaluable for military planning. The Primarch species, which we're calling Draconians, appear to be natural leaders but physically vulnerable, she reported to Admiral Kim. The crystalline beings are incredibly tough but seem to lack individual initiative. The metal squid creatures are brilliant engineers but probably poor fighters. Weakness? Asked Admiral Kim. Over-specialization, replied Dr. Song. Each species has evolved to fill a specific role in their society. They're incredibly good at their jobs, but they can't adapt when faced with situations outside their expertise. Admiral Kim studied the alien behavioral profiles, so if we can force them into situations they haven't prepared for, they'll make mistakes, confirmed Dr. Song. Big ones. The final piece of Earth's defense strategy was coordination. Every military unit, research facility, and government agency was connected through quantum communication networks that the aliens couldn't intercept or jam. Commander Heun Shin, who had been promoted to head of military communications, demonstrated the system to Admiral Kim. Even if they destroy 90% of our infrastructure, the remaining 10% can still coordinate a resistance. Good, replied Admiral Kim, because if this war goes as badly as it could, coordination might be the only thing that saves us. As the deadline approached, humanity's preparations intensified. Factory workers who had been told they were making space exploration equipment learned they were actually producing weapons of war. Pilots who thought they were training for asteroid mining missions discovered they were preparing to fight aliens. But perhaps most importantly, the human spirit was being prepared for the greatest challenge in the species' history. In schools and community centers, in churches and temples, in government buildings and private homes, people talked about what it meant to be human. They talked about freedom, about the right to explore the stars, about refusing to bow down to anyone who claimed authority over their lives. Captain Jisoo Park, standing on the bridge of his newly upgraded ship, received the final intelligence report from Earth Command. The Galactic Defense Force was mobilizing. Thousands of alien ships were moving toward Earth's solar system. "How much time do we have?" he asked. 72 hours, replied his communications officer. Jisoo looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, an alien armada was approaching with the confidence that came from 50,000 years of unopposed rule. They were about to learn that humans had spent their entire history fighting against impossible odds. And they had gotten very good at winning. The emergency session of Earth's United Defense Council took place in the deepest bunker beneath Geneva. Representatives from every major nation sat around a circular table, their faces grim as they listened to Admiral Kim's report. "So they want us to become prisoners in our own solar system," said President Seoyeon Lim, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "That's exactly what they want," confirmed Minji Lee. The Primarch made it clear that no species has ever refused their authority. They've been the absolute rulers of the galaxy for 50,000 years. General Suman Kang studied the data they had gathered about the Council Station. "Their technology is impressive, but there's something that bothers me. Did you notice how they spoke about warfare?" Colonel Do-hyun Choi nodded. "They mentioned their Galactic Defense Force like it was some kind of natural disaster. Unstoppable, inevitable. But they didn't talk like soldiers. They talked like politicians who had never seen real battle." Dr. Yoonji Song pulled up holographic displays of the alien species they had encountered. "I've been analyzing their behavior patterns. Each species seemed to have a specific role in their society. The crystal beings were messengers. The dragon-like Primarch was clearly a leader. The metal squid appeared to be some kind of engineer or technician. Specialization," mused Admiral Kim. "They've had so much time to perfect their roles that they've become completely dependent on each other. Is that good or bad for us?" asked President Lim. "Both," replied General Kang. "It makes them efficient, but it also makes them predictable, and possibly vulnerable to unexpected tactics." The discussion was interrupted when Dr. Jaewon Yoon, Earth's top weapons researcher, entered the room carrying a sealed briefcase. His usually calm expression showed barely contained excitement. "Admiral, I've completed the analysis of the energy readings we collected from the Council Station. I think I know how their defenses work." He activated a holographic display showing the alien ships they had observed. "Their entire military doctrine is based on energy projection. Plasma weapons, energy shields, force fields. It's incredibly advanced, but it's also completely uniform across all their species." "Meaning?" asked President Lim. "Meaning they all use the same basic principles. If we can find a way to disrupt those energy fields, we can potentially neutralize their entire fleet. Admiral Kim leaned forward. How long would it take to develop such weapons? We've already been working on it for 3 years, admitted Dr. Yoon. Protocol Hangul included research into countering energy-based alien technology. We just didn't know if we'd ever need to use it. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth had been preparing for this possibility long before first contact ever occurred. General Kang stood and walked to a wall display showing Earth's military assets. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time I told you about some projects that have been classified above your security levels. With a few commands, the display changed to show images that made everyone in the room gasp. Massive ships hidden in asteroid fields, weapons platforms disguised as space stations, entire fleets of vessels that didn't appear on any official records. Project Ghost Fleet, continued General Kang. For the past 5 years, we've been building ships designed to fight an enemy with superior technology. Every one of these vessels is equipped with experimental weapons and stealth systems. How many? Asked President Lim. 237 capital ships, over 1,000 fighters and support craft, all completely invisible to energy-based detection systems. Minji Lee shook her head in amazement. We've been preparing for war with aliens we didn't even know existed. Not war, corrected Admiral Kim. Defense. There's a difference. War implies we have a choice about fighting. Defense means we're fighting for our survival. Colonel Choi had been studying the tactical data. The Council's confidence in their military might come from their track record. 50,000 years without a defeat. But that also means 50,000 years without facing a real challenge. They've grown soft, agreed General Kang. Their defense force is probably more like a police force than a real military. They're used to dealing with primitive species that surrender immediately. Dr. Song brought up another concern. But what about their numbers? They control thousands of worlds. Even if their individual ships are vulnerable, they could overwhelm us through sheer quantity. Maybe not, said Dr. Yoon. Remember, each species in the Council has a specialized role. That means their military forces are probably specialized too. Some species build ships, others provide weapons, others handle logistics. If we can disrupt their coordination, we could turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness, finished Admiral Kim. President Lim stood and looked around the room. So we're actually considering this, fighting a galactic empire that has never lost a war. They gave us no choice, replied Admiral Kim. We can submit to becoming prisoners and hope they honor their word, or we can fight for our freedom. There's another factor to consider, added Minji Lee. During our time at the Council Station, I noticed something. Not all the species looked happy to be there. Some of the younger races seemed restless, even resentful. The Council's rule might not be as stable as they want us to believe. General Kang nodded. Oppressed populations tend to rebel when they see weakness in their oppressors. If we can demonstrate that the Council can be defeated, we might start a galactic revolution, said Dr. Song. The weight of the decision hung heavy in the room. They were talking about challenging an empire that had ruled the galaxy since before human civilization existed. President Lim walked to the center of the room. I need to ask each of you directly. Do you believe we can win? Admiral Kim was the first to respond. I believe we can make them regret underestimating us. General Kang nodded. Our simulations show we have a real chance, especially if we strike first and strike hard. Dr. Yoon was more cautious. The technology gaps are significant but not insurmountable. Human ingenuity has always been our greatest weapon. Colonel Choi smiled grimly. They've never faced an enemy that fights the way humans do. Chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely refusing to quit. Minji Lee was the last to speak. Diplomatically, submission would be a temporary solution at best. Sooner or later, they would decide we were still too dangerous and eliminate us entirely. Fighting gives us a chance. Surrendering just delays the inevitable. President Lim looked around the room one more time. Then it's decided. We reject the Council's ultimatum. General Kang, begin full implementation of Protocol Hangul. Admiral Kim, prepare the fleet for combat operations. Dr. Yoon, I want every weapon system we've developed ready for deployment. And the people? Asked Minji Lee. How do we tell them we're going to war with aliens? We tell them the truth, said President Lim firmly. We tell them that humanity has never bowed to tyrants no matter how powerful. We tell them that some things are worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. As the meeting broke up and the various officials hurried off to prepare for humanity's greatest challenge, Admiral Kim remained behind, staring at the tactical displays. Colonel Choi joined him. "Second thoughts, Admiral?" "No," replied Kim. "I'm just thinking about what the Primarch said. No species has ever successfully resisted their authority. I wonder if that's because no one has ever really tried, or if everyone who tried is gone." "I guess we're about to find out," said Choi. Outside the bunker, life on Earth continued as normal, unaware that their leaders had just declared war on the galaxy itself. Captain Jisoo Park stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet's flagship Taegukgi, watching the stars through the main view screen. It was supposed to be a routine patrol mission near Jupiter's orbit. The massive ship hummed quietly as its crew went about their daily duties. Jisoo had been captain for 3 years now, and space had become as familiar to him as his childhood home in Busan. The peaceful moment ended when Lieutenant Minji Lee rushed onto the bridge, her face pale with excitement and worry. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's not from Earth and it's not from any of our colonies." Jisoo turned to face her. "Show me." The main screen flickered and suddenly they were looking at something impossible. A being made of what looked like living crystal stood before them. It was tall, maybe 8 feet, with light moving through its transparent body like liquid gold. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. "Greetings, primitive inhabitants of the third planet. I am SciFiPrime, messenger of the Galactic Council. Your species has been observed. You have achieved faster-than-light travel without permission. This is concerning." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member stared at the screen. First contact with alien life was happening right in front of them, and it didn't sound friendly. "Your leaders must appear before the Galactic Council within 30 of your days to justify your existence and explain your rapid technological advancement. Failure to comply will result in corrective measures. The coordinates for the Council station have been transmitted to your vessel." The transmission ended. The screen went back to showing stars. For a moment, nobody moved. Jisoo was the first to speak. "Get me Admiral Kim immediately." Within hours, the news had reached Earth's highest levels. In the underground military complex beneath Seoul, Admiral Hyunwoo Kim gathered his top advisors. The room was tense as they watched the alien message for the 5th time. "So we're not alone," said Dr. Yoonji Song, Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien life. "And they're not happy about us being here." Admiral Kim nodded grimly. "The message is clear. They see us as a threat that needs to be controlled or eliminated." Defense Minister Suman Kang leaned forward. "What do we know about this Galactic Council?" "Nothing," admitted Dr. Song. "But the fact that they can contact us across such distances suggests they're far more advanced than us. The crystal being called us primitive. That's not a good sign." Minji Lee, who had been promoted to diplomatic advisor after her role in receiving the first message, spoke up. "Maybe we can negotiate, find a peaceful solution." "Maybe," said Admiral Kim, "but we need to prepare for the possibility that they won't listen. General Kang, I want you to begin Protocol Hangul immediately." General Kang's eyes widened slightly. Protocol Hangul was Earth's most secret military plan, designed for exactly this situation. "Are you sure, Admiral?" "Once we start, there's no going back, I'm sure. If this council has the power to make demands like this, they probably have the power to back them up. We need to be ready." The next weeks passed quickly. Earth's governments worked together in ways they never had before. President Soyeon Lim addressed the world, telling people about the alien contact, but keeping the threatening nature of the message secret to prevent panic. Meanwhile, Admiral Kim assembled Earth's delegation. Captain Jisoo Park would command their escort ship. Minji Lee would handle diplomacy. Dr. Song would study any alien technology they encountered. And military strategist Colonel Do-hyun Choi would observe alien military capabilities. As their ship approached the coordinates given by the crystal being, they saw something that took their breath away. The council station was enormous, easily the size of Earth's moon. It was made of the same crystalline material as the messenger, but with sections that looked like they belonged to different alien races. Ships of impossible designs moved around it like insects around a hive. "My God," whispered Dr. Song. "How long would it take us to build something like that?" "Centuries," replied Jisoo. "Maybe longer." Their ship was guided to a docking bay by beams of pure light. As they walked through the station's corridors, They saw their first aliens in person. Creatures that looked like walking trees moved past them without a glance. Beings of pure energy floated through the walls. Small, gray creatures with large eyes scurried about on mechanical legs. The council chamber was a vast circular room with 12 raised platforms. On each platform sat a different alien species. The crystal being that had contacted them stood in the center. "So," said a voice that sounded like grinding stone, "these are the humans." The speaker was something that looked like a cross between a lizard and a dragon, sitting on a throne made of what looked like compressed starlight. Its eyes were ancient and cold. "I am Primarch Veltharion, leader of the Galactic Council. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for 50,000 years. Your species threatens that peace." Minji Lee stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over despite her fear. "Honorable Primarch, we come seeking friendship and understanding. Earth has no desire to threaten anyone." A sound like breaking glass filled the chamber. It took them a moment to realize it was laughter. "Friendship?" said another council member, this one looking like a giant squid made of metal. "Your species has been observed. In less than a century, you have gone from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel. You have covered your planet in weapons capable of destroying all life. You wage constant war against your own kind. We classify your species as Category 7, continued the Primarch, barely above the intelligence level of bacteria. Yet somehow you have achieved interstellar travel. This should be impossible, Dr. Song spoke up. Perhaps our rapid advancement shows we're more capable than you think. Or it shows you are dangerous, replied a being that looked like it was made of flowing water. Dangerous species are dealt with accordingly. The Primarch stood, towering over them even at a distance. The Council has decided. You have 30 standard days to withdraw all human presence to your home system. You will submit to technological restrictions that will prevent further expansion. Your weapons will be limited to those needed for basic self-defense. And if we refuse? Asked Colonel Choi. No species has ever successfully refused the Council's authority, said the Primarch with confidence that came from 50,000 years of unchallenged power. The Galactic Defense Force has never known defeat. Your primitive weapons would be useless against our technology. Admiral Kim, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. We understand your position, Honorable Primarch. We will return to Earth and discuss your terms with our leaders. Wise, said the Primarch. Few species are given such mercy. Do not waste this opportunity. As they left the council chamber, Jisoo noticed something in Admiral Kim's eyes. It wasn't fear or defeat. It was the look of someone who had just learned exactly what they needed to know about their enemy. The long journey back to Earth gave them time to process what they had experienced. The aliens were powerful, ancient, and absolutely convinced of their superiority. They had never faced real resistance. That, Admiral Kim realized, might be their greatest weakness.